So after hearing this Royce the 5'9" and Benny the Butcher track Upside Down, I decided I had to do some type of review of the track. There was so much in it that really caught my attention and just reminded me of pure boom bap meets street rap meets lyricism, that this just had to be featured on the channel. Not to mention that Royce usually brings in a lot of themes that reference his connection to God and in his family and the relationship with him and other people, and that just naturally fits a theology narrative. And so I wanted to bring that type of analysis to this track. And if you hadn't heard it, you got to hear it, because I'm going to give you bits and pieces here with my thoughts, but you just got to hear the track in its entirety. So without further ado, I'm going to get into some pieces of it, and you'll hear me talk about it at different times. So the first thing I gotta note is that this track has a haunting / chilling instrumental, something that just really makes you take a step back and kind of take it in, and it gives you that impression of I'm walking into a dark situation, and the stuff around me, it isn't clear. What I'm heading into isn't it isn't safe, almost as if that what I'm about to get into might actually be harmful for me, but it kind of draws you in at the same time. Musically, it kind of gives me that feeling. And so and if you listen to the lyrics of the singer here, Ashley Sorrell, she's really talented, but she's asking you some questions that make you reflect and think, like right from the gate. So just kind of listen to that a little bit more.
When you got beef, do you stand or run or talk from your computer? Do you boss up, put your people on, or hate 'cause you can't do it? Will you speak the truth?
So if you heard of that, she says, you know, when you get money, do you give back to the hood? Like, do you come back and actually try to restore and rebuild your community, or do you take it to the jeweler? So you get that. Do you just take from your community and then go sell it? You're basically selling out your community by taking from it. You're just like a group that steals from people that you know, and then you profit from the destruction that you caused. And it's like, ooh, that type of question makes you really think about your lifestyle and what you're doing. And then they also that typical, like, hey, if you actually get into problems with people, are you the type of person that will actually man up and take on the situation head on? Or are you the type of person that will just talk about it on the computer later on? And it's like, ooh, hearing that from a singer coming at you, that's got to be pretty, that just hits you really hard in the feels. So let's just keep going.
Or be silent, bite the bullet. Which one are you? Which one are you?
Now that last question of which one are you, and it asks you again, which one are you? It's important because if you heard the last thing she sung, she asked, will you speak to power, or will you sit back and just bite the bullet? And if you don't know what that means, it's like when you have power coming against you, doing things that are harmful to you and your community, are you the type of person that's going to speak out against it and fight against it, or are you just going to bite the bullet? Means that you just take the consequences of what's happening to you for some other gain. Like you say, you know what, I'm going to allow the consequences of what's happening because I'll get what I want, even though something is going to hurt, something is going to subtract, there's going to be some negative to this in the end. And so are you the type of person that will speak to power even when when the consequences will be negative for you, but it'll be helpful for more people? Just a super reflective question that you have to ask as a person, as a human. And man, that speaks to me.
Why the gay niggas tryna fuck the straight niggas that's tryna fuck the gay bitches that look just like the straight niggas? Why the straight niggas that the gay bitches tryna look just like the gay niggas? I must look just like the grave niggas.
First of all, I gotta stop this right here because Royce is just amazing for coming into tracks and making you really thinking about the first few things he said. He did the same thing on the track with Eminem on Music to Be Murdered By It called You Gon' Learn. He kind of helped with an alliteration thing there. But in this particular track, he starts off with this crazy articulation of the fact that, well, the track is called Upside Down, right? And so obviously the sexual orientation, you know, homosexuality has always been viewed as, you know, the opposite of like the natural way. And so this will be something that's upside down. So notice how he keeps flipping the wording back to back to back. Like, I don't think he's making statements per se on what's right sexuality wise, but this works for a bar because he says, while the gay N words, you know, so he goes, if you notice, follow him, say each thing: gay, straight, gay, straight, gay, straight. Like, he does it just like that. Follow, see the pattern. He goes back and forth, upside down. So I'm gonna rewind it a little bit so you can kind of hear what I was seeing there. Let's see.
Why the gay niggas tryna fuck the straight niggas that's tryna fuck the gay bitches that look just like the straight niggas? Why the straight niggas that the gay bitches tryna look just like the gay niggas? I must look just like the grave niggas.
So you can see what I was going for there. Like, while the gay to the straight to the gay to the straight to the gay to the straight, looking like the gay and the straight. Royce is really good at doing that type of thing. That's pretty cool. So let's just listen to some more. And then, of course, I could dive into the theology behind, you know, sexuality and human orientation. But that'd be a conversation that would be just way too much for this video. And I don't want to do that right now.
You think you the people's champ because people playing your single. But I don't think that you should keep playing with me, though. Because every time I squeeze a damn 3-4, that's the Reaper playing bingo. That's a kilogram wrapped up on a Peter Pan Prevost.
I always have to stop when I hear dope rhyme scheme. And Royce doesn't disappoint here when he goes with the E-O, E-O, E-O sound over and over and over again for about 3 or 4 bars here. And he's kind of giving me some very like street bars, you know, when I squeezed the 3-4, which is a slang term for another type of gun, and then wrapping up, you know, thugs in the Peter Pan Prevost. These are very specific slang terms that probably not even every gang or street person would recognize, because these are probably very niche and specific to particular terminology and people that use them, but you kind of get the idea here. Man, but he says I use the 3-4 is like the Reaper playing bingo. That part of the line probably most people can pick up because it's like, you know, the Grim Reaper, the person who's bringing death. When Royce is squeezing the 3-4, it's like, well, it's like the Grim Reaper's just out here trying to take people, like whoever is in range, because I might just hit anybody. And if I hit anybody, that means people are going to die, and it might be random, and you don't know who's going to be taken out. And it's like, okay. Okay, Royce, I see you.
Whoever think I'm here to make some corny ass radio Viacom jangle, got my old diatribe tangle, sitting high up on them tires on my high horse, I'm Django, likened by white powder John Stamos.
Royce's words, they just twist you up and you go like, whoa, what are you talking about here? But it's actually, he's making very clear and articulate points. You just have to really sit and think through it. And that's one of the things I love about him. But he says, you're going to get my diatribe tangled. And what he's getting at is that if you think I'm here to make some appeasing track that's going to get on the radio, that doesn't push too many buttons, that's not going to cause any trouble, and everyone's going to be happy with me about, yeah, you can forget about that. I'm not going to do that. That's not the type of track I'm here to make. And it's like, okay, Royce. And he's saying like things are upside down and I'm going to call them out. And he might say it in a way that not everybody agrees with, but he's going to address some things that he feels needs to be addressed. And then what's the point that he really interesting that he makes is that he says, I'm like Django, you know, that reference to Django. I'm like the, you know, on the high horse, because, you know, Django was the slave who escaped, who rode out on a horse, and he was a slave that was on top of the horse looking down on the people. And so like one of the references that he's making there is that he's from a position of status. At that point, he's a slave who has status. Well, he's not saying that he's a slave, but using the Django reference, that's the context. But he's saying like, I'm a black man who now has had the status then to now moved out from slavery, or moved out, you know, and this could be in reference to a lot. It can be like slavery to in our current context, like drugs, or like being enslaved by the labels of the music industry, like all these traps that other black people might be stuck in. And he's saying, I'm now in this position where I can look, and I now trying to provide knowledge and to address things that are wrong. And so I need to, tell other people about it. And then the White Powder John Stamos, I think I heard somewhere, I think even on the Lost in Vegas channel, you guys go check them out, about, John Stamos had like some allegation that he was, about him using cocaine at some point. I can't really break that one down right now in the moment, but you can check that out if you want. But I do know that John Stamos is an actor, producer, musician, comedian, actor, whole bunch of stuff. He was actually Blackie Parrish on the show General Hospital, and I'm pretty sure Blackie Parrish probably has something to do with this whole scheme that he's making up here.
Probably the only artist who could father time, John Amos. Rapper God erupted out of a Comic-Con Kano.
I had to stop there because I'm the only artist who can father time. John Amos, that type of rhyming right there is reminiscent of Big Sean and Drake. That na 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 na, where you finish the bar at the end. But what mainly makes this great is that Good Times, the show. If you remember the old show Good Times, about a working class black family living in Chicago. The father of the show was played by the actor John Amos. So the father of time, Good Times, just had to point that out.
Committing lyrical homicide, while beside Primo. To the downers, I'm Drano. To the genre, I'm Thanos. Any spitter think he's sicker than that, I have the antidote. Take it back to when it was apes in the pack. Kidnap you over that little rap you wrote.
I just have to stop it again and say that when he says to the downers, I'm Drano. I like that because like, it's a reference, it's like to the people that's down on me, like I'm flipping down. But also downers is a reference to the drugs. You got uppers and downers. The downers are depressants, and we're flushing them down the toilet. Because Royce has stated many times that these rappers need to leave the drugs alone. And so to the downers, he's Dranos. And then, of course, he makes the reference to Thanos. Him and Eminem both have made reference to Thanos a lot lately. And they both haven't had any issues with claiming how great they are lyrically in the rap game. And they claim to be Thanos quite a bit. And Royce, man, he's just dope.
Leave your family taken aback by the handsome quote that I left on that ransom note. I ain't one of these dudes who be computer screen beefing. Gorilla nigga killing his Twitter TL. Verbal abusing females. Bill Maher used the term nigga so loosely, cause truthfully he know that he'd be using it on a DL. Louis C.K. know he can use it in front of Pookie, but know damn well that he wouldn't use it in front of DL.
Okay, there's a lot going on there. So first of all, I gotta point out he said the TL, because he was talking about Twitter or anything that has a timeline. So TL, then he goes DL, where he's referencing, Louis C.K. using the N-word on the DL. But then knowing that, DL is down low, so on the down low, meaning that it's kind of secret or like, in the dark. But then he also says that Louis C.K., even though he uses the N-word in common speech on the DL, and especially around Pookie, who is Chris Rock, that was his character on the movie Pootie Tang, I believe. And because of that, him and Chris Rock might think it's cool, but he know that Louis C.K. wouldn't use it in front of DL, as in the black comedian DL Hughley. So while Chris Rock might be okay or like allowing him to do that type of thing, DL would not be okay with that. And so it's a really nice play on words with Twitter timeline, TL, DL as in download, and DL as in DL Hughley. I also personally have problems with the N-word being used, and specifically, with Louis C.K. and Chris Rock. I don't know why Chris Rock would allow that to be the case, but yeah, that's rough. But Royce obviously takes exception to that too, and he makes a really nice play on words. So he's not just talking here, he's not just preaching, he's bringing like real lyricism to addressing these issues. Royce is always dope.
White kids graduate to relationships, a ton of perks. Black kids just aggravated and had to take a ton of perks. He come to church.
White kids is aggravated and, they graduated. White kids is graduating and they're taking a ton of perks. And it's funny because perks kind of works both ways here. And you'll see it better as you get the second line where black kids get aggravated and end up taking a ton of perks. So like white kids graduate, they get to school, they get the chance to go to school. They're able to get that privilege, a little bit more of those benefits. They graduate and they get perks, right? You know, as in like benefits to the job and all of that. And you can also say that they're also using the drugs, the perks. While black kids who usually come from a more disadvantaged situation, they get aggravated at that situation in the environment that they grow up in. They get aggravated at that and they turn to the thing that can make them feel good, or so they think. Perks, Percocets, they're like the pain pills. And it's like, that's rough. That's a tough bar. It's like he's preaching a real message, but he's giving you bars at the same time.
First and 21st, and when it come to dirt, Gucci ain't the only ones putting black faces on front of shirts. Black women want to be built like cartoon characters. Eric Cartman, that bears a striking resemblance to Sarah Bartman.
So Eric Cartman, that bears a slight resemblance to Sarah Bartman. So this line, you definitely have to do some research, and he actually tells you to do some research, like the part right after this, and I had already started doing that. But Eric Cartman, of course, is the cartoon character from South Park who was known for being pretty overweight, so they called him a fat A. And so, but you also know that when people usually term, you know, the fat A, when they're talking about women, they usually mean it in like a pseudo, you know, supposed to be positive way. We're talking about like how voluptuous or big the woman's butt is. And so he said the black women wanted to be like cartoon characters, you know, like Eric Cartman, who was a fat A. But you know, ultimately that's like a playback to Sarah Bartman. Now, Sarah Bartman was a black woman who was idolized and sensationalized and what's the word I'm looking for here? Basically, when you take advantage of someone's personhood and you shorten their existence, you make the totality of who they are about just one thing. And they did that with Sarah Bartman, with her body, with her image. They they tried to say that, yeah, they tried to romanticize that and make that the only thing she was worth. And so this idea of that's what they're doing to Sarah Bartman. It's just that black women have fallen into the trap, or they've been taught that this is what you have to do to have value and worth, is to try to make yourself or strive for the image of Sarah Bartman. And that's tough.
Now Google that when you get a chance. You're gonna find out America's heartless. Remember, the effort has to go into the art, not the wave. Everybody talking about they own their masters, but if the music don't age well, it don't matter. It's like you own 100% of nothing. Know your value.
That last little segment from Royce, that just sets it off right there. You know, and he's like, you gotta go into the effort, not just the art. You can't just go in here just making music. If you wanna own your masters, it has to be worth something. It has to be a substance. It has to be worth you trying to keep. And it's like, okay, Royce, just let those words speak for themselves.
The butcher coming, nigga. All them times you gave him your best got you complicating your stress. Cash rules, your last move got him contemplating your next. I'm the one behind the wheel when them conversations go left. I need violence, Rasheed Wallace, I'm okay with a text.
You just gotta stop Benny the Butcher immediately. Hardcore street bars, but he says a lot here. The cash moves have you contemplating your next. You know, you're thinking about like, well, I'm making this money. I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do next. How am I gonna keep the cash flow going? But that last line here in this whole little scheme, I'm Rasheed Wallace. I'm okay with the tech. So if you're an NBA basketball fan, you would know that Rasheed Wallace was a power forward who played for the Detroit Pistons in the early 2000s when they went on their run, where they were competing with the Lakers for a while, and they were, you know, won them in NBA Finals even. But Rasheed Wallace was a tough guy who would go attack some people on that court and play very physical, and he would get technical fouls. But if you also well versed in street culture or even just street rap in general, you would know that a tech is a type of gun, and it can do violence, it can do damage. So Rasheed Wallace, I'm okay with the tech, double entendre there.
What's the difference from a nigga who lived it and storytellers? Of course we felon, soda brick whiter than Tory spelling. War with killers, nobody on my block was poured in us. I put a fork in a pot and got a euphoric feeling.
So Benny has quite a way all the time of telling you about his life in Buffalo growing up very poor, and about how they started selling drugs and making a living off of that. And Benny really kind of paints the picture. You know, when he finishes this line saying, you know, I had dreams of, you know, I'm in the kitchen whipping up in the pot and I got a euphoric feeling. He got a euphoric feeling about whipping up dope in a pot, because that was the life that they lived. He said, I actually lived this life. He said, some people rap about it. I actually lived this. And I get giddy, you know, almost, or like it brings up dopamine in my brain when I think about the things that we were able to do when we were whipping up dope in a pot. And I don't know how to feel about that.
Young heathens clap tools over VVS Jews. White kids put heaters at school on the CBS News. Became a legend for the skeptics who ain't believe me, that dude. And for mornings, I never ate unless they feed me at school.
Man, he said a lot there. The white kids want to pull out guns and then, you know, be legends because they should end up on CBS News, you know, because they're getting recognition for the shootings that they're about to do. And, man, and just contrasting that with the black experience, and ultimately he ends this kind of that scheme by saying, I went to school and sometimes the only time I ate was when I went to school and got my lunch. Like, I can understand that.
Serving out pots, had me turning out blocks. It's Griselda, nigga. You know we the firm without Fox.
Benny makes a reference that the average hip hop listener wouldn't recognize or be used to here, because he mentions the firm, but he also contrasts it or compares it with his group Griselda, which is the current Buffalo, New York hip hop group consisting of himself, Westside Gunn, and Conway the Machine. But he says Griselda, we're the firm without Fox. Now, if you know the firm, they're also a group that originated in New York, with members being Nas, AZ, Foxy Brown, Nature. And so he would go on to say we're a firm but without Fox. So it's a group basically with three guys. Griselda has three guys, but they don't have a female rap artist in the group. And that was just a nice little play on words he gave there as he finished out that scheme.
Everything about timing, and I was stern on my clock, cause niggas out now grinding, trying to earn what I got. Stick to the script, my advantage was hustle, so I'm saying off the muscle. I'm here in careers, I could cancel a couple. The shooters cross the Atlantic to touch you. Rubber bands in a duffel with both hands full. I ain't panic, I juggle. I'm very confident. Y'all barely popping it. Y'all niggas treat a project chick like Kerry Washington.
Y'all treat every project chick like Kerry Washington. Basically, Benny saying that you can't treat every girl that you meet in the hood or in the projects as you would a woman that you would marry. But he uses this in contrast to the whole scheme that he set up about the fact that when you're in this situation, you are typically, well, I guess in their case, like he's weighing up the scales. He's done all this time whipping up pots with the cocaine and drugs, and you're weighing scales and you're out selling it, and you have people who help you do this. Like, you're not meeting the type of people that one would typically want to spend the rest of their life with.
Jail backstabbing the hell, I took a consequence. The yard big enough at the crib to bury hostages. Enough at the
And Royce ends this video with a powerful quote, in my opinion, from Marcus Garvey, although it says Marcus Gravy on the text. But we are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. And it's just playing on the idea that throughout this whole song, you know, stuff is upside down. And are we going to allow the upside down reality to be what we live in? Are we going to allow it to dictate what we do? And Royce is saying we can't allow it, or we'll end up in the same situation, which is why he goes on to reference his situation growing up. He references the effects that Percocets have. He references the fact that black women have been taught to see value in the image of their body, hence the Eric Hartman and the Sarah Bartman lines. And even Benny the Butcher contrasting like his lifestyle growing up with how white kids can perceive, you know, life, or like what they see value in or what they get viewed by in the media. So this very idea, they explore a lot of concepts, a lot of things that you can make 30-minute, 40-minute, hour-long videos on. But I'm going to leave this one here because I want to know your thoughts on this.